What is up, guys? I am so excited to be here today, and for a couple of reasons. One, we have gathered 5 unbelievable people that have been doing something in the e-commerce space, whether it's on influencers, whether it's on the analytics, whether it's on building a community, whether it's on scaling brands that started from zero and are now doing 6 to 7 figures a month, where that's where I lay my hat. They have everything covered, right? So everybody that's joined on to really help build this e-commerce all-star training is absolutely done it before. They're speaking from experience, and that's kind of where, if you start seeing me get really excited about things, is because I'm in this day to day, right? If I'm not media buying, I'm strategizing. If I'm not strategizing, I'm finding influencers. If I'm not finding influencers, I'm digging into data to make better decisions, not just for Facebook itself, but for my Instagram campaigns, for my email campaigns, for my AdWords campaigns. But this is kind of why I'm so excited, because this, if I were to calculate everything and all the time and hours that put into this, it'd be over 40 hours, right? Not just for me, but from everybody that's spoken before me, people are speaking after me. There's been a lot of time and effort being put into this entire campaign. And special shout out to Eric Dyke. The man himself is absolutely crushing it. He spent so much time wrangling all of us entrepreneurs up, wrangling all of us people that are speaking, traveling to be at the events, and he put in time, effort, and he's made this run so smoothly. The iStack team is first class, and I'm very, very appreciative of being nominated and being able to kind of deliver the goods, right? So before I kind of get into that, I do want to set the scene. I do want to give a little bit about myself. And again, my name is Nick Shackelford. I don't even think I introduced myself. And what I do best is, at its core, is media buy. And now it's kind of turned into more of like a holistic marketing approach, which I really get deep into that when I start geeking out on purchase retention, purchase frequency rates, all these different weird things that we're talking about. I'll definitely go deep in. And if you got the mini course, we briefly touched upon it with a cool little tool. And on this case, we're going to be able to dive much, much deeper in how we build those sort of campaigns out. But again, I want to kind of go back and give you a little bit of background where I am, what got me to be in front of you today. So again, my name is Nick Shackelford. I've been helping entrepreneurs build brands scalable for just about 5, pushing 6. At the end of this year, it'll be 6 years, and it's been a good ride, but it's been really, really different. And what I mean by that is, I actually began as a professional soccer player, and it has no ties to digital marketing until I actually stepped back and thought about it. And I go, what is the same thing that a professional athlete has and a brand builder has? Well, you might be building a physical brand that's not about yourself, but at the end of the day, you're still building a brand. Like, you yourself as an athlete, as an entrepreneur, are a brand, right? You evoke different emotions, you evoke different feelings, you get different deals, and people buy in at different levels. So same thing was kind of like being engraved in me for a long period of time. And it kind of comes down to the root of understanding some delayed gratification, something that I'll be talking about when you have to get your mindset to be building businesses that are going to definitely outlast you and hopefully outlast your children, because that's the goal of this, right? Building something bigger than yourself so that it stays for much longer than you. But again, where it kind of all started is, as soon as I realized, you can't trade time for money. In our world, if you're going to do anything worth mentioning, if you're going to leave a legacy, you're not going to be able to trade your time for a paycheck. It's not going to work. So when I realized playing professional soccer, it's not going to get me to where I want to be. If I was unbelievable, if I'm a LeBron of my sport, which in soccer, the payments in the United States, not as big as the world stage. Obviously, the World Cup's going on right now, and everybody is just talking about the Cristianos and the Messis. Well, me in America, being a goalkeeper, the levels of compensation wasn't where it needed to be. So I made a decision to jump out and follow a second passion of mine, which was digital marketing. Right? So this is, let's say, 3, 4, just over 5 years now. And the first exact jump I had was sitting in boardroom meetings for PepsiCo. Everybody knows Pepsi, everybody knows the drink, but they have multiple divisions that are kind of chopped up. The specific division that they needed to put more focus and time on was the direct-to-consumer restaurant division, right? So this division was trying to get millennials, trying to get young parents in the door, and how do they relate to them, right? So I'm sitting in board meetings with much smarter people than myself, people who have been in this industry for years, talking about Instagram posts, Facebook posts, things that to us are common sense of building a brand, but to them, They didn't comprehend that that's where everything was going. That's where everything needed to be. So we're sitting here talking about massive, massive budgets, nowhere to put it. And I'm over here sitting at this table saying, guys, you should really be talking to these type of influencers, or what you should really be doing is thinking about where you can put these dollars into posting pictures. And I'm just having people look at me going, I don't get it. I don't see how it's working. Until one thing happened, one major breakthrough. The brand itself was called BJ's Restaurants, which is a great pizza place here on the Southern California coast. I don't know if they're anywhere else, but it's more of like a tier 2 brand where it's casual dining, and there's a campaign where they wanted to relate and attract more millennials. So what I did, I laid out an entire marketing campaign, sat down, pitched the creative agency, and as the activation came through, everyone started realizing, whoa, like this TV spot, this website campaign really, really drove traffic. The mindset shifted, right? So all this organic traffic that PepsiCo's now started diving into was about 5-6 years ago. And I know for a fact that I was able to kind of influence these small group of people, but it also definitely reverberated across the rest of the West Coast branches. But that was just the beginning. That's something that to me was not where my focus was going to go, not in the organic. I knew that there was more to do. And I got very, very fortunate by getting in contact with the brand new team at Apple that was building a paid social team. And how this sort of works is big time agencies, the Omnicoms of the world, have one team dedicated to one brand because of how large it is, right? This just happened to be Apple. Again, I am sitting in front of 3 Apple computers. Everything I touch is Apple, iPhone, you name it. I am true and true their fan. What we didn't know at this time was this is just beginning. The paid push was just beginning in this world, especially with the big brands. And for a brand like Apple diving into massive budgets and not really tying bottom line to top line revenue, that they wanted to just spend as much as possible, didn't necessarily mean that they wanted to track the metrics that you and I track today. So when I spent about my year there, I launched the iPhone 7, the iPad Pro, big campaigns, massive budgets, but all we were really doing was going, let's take this money and let's target the United States. Okay, and give me the report back on how the video view, click-through rate, cost per click, all these metrics that to me made sense at the time why they wanted to measure it, but it didn't tie back to like how was my direct impact and my thought work and our team's decision making impacting your business, Apple. And to me, it was hard for me to swallow. I didn't comprehend it. I didn't know. I couldn't come to wits with understanding that this is what I'm supposed to do. I wasn't impacting as much as I wanted to impact, right? Traditional millennial wanting to have more than he's earned. So at that time, I knew if I'm going to do this, I need to jump out and do it myself. I got very, very fortunate to be partnered with a great young entrepreneur named Jake Schmidt. Jake Schmidt, this happened right when the fidget spinner trend was just coming about, right? So there's 2 main competitors, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast. What we had on the West Coast was media buying and influencers, and we had very, very good strategies in launching it. So we got very lucky with being at the right place at the right time and taking action. That at its core is what it was. So we launched Fidgetly, which is still live today. Thank God it's been doing very, very fantastic for about 2+ years out. And it taught me one really big lesson. Move fast, test as much as possible, and don't be afraid to spend. Okay? Now that might not be, oh, Nick, that's not very scientific. Well, at this stage of at this length of business that Facebook and social media campaigns have been around, there's not enough historical data for the entire ecosystem, rather for specific campaigns that you're about to start or I'm starting currently, that we have to make the best decisions we can with the information we have at hand. So an ideology that I adopted is everybody knows ready, aim, fire. Well, what I live by is ready, fire, aim. And what this means to me is if you can be focused, have a hypothesis of what should work, send it into the world or fire, and then get back and aim and reshoot again, that's where you're going to get your biggest breakthroughs, because what we're really good at doing is not having biases towards outcomes. It needs to be blatantly clear in the data, and it needs to be blatantly understandable to tie in that result back to the actions that you put in. Okay? So I'm going to talk as much as I can about this, because this is how I've been able to kind of come about and really make a name for myself in this industry thus far, is because I was just taking action. and then I would do the postmortem and understand why it worked. So understanding Fidgetly, when we grew to just under 6 figures in our first month, and this was jumping into Facebook completely blind, especially the direct response media buying, we realized that the direct response nature of the price point and the type of creative we were putting out were the main drivers of success. So to me and myself, trying to challenge and see what I had next to give is, okay, how do I do better? Where do I go from this? I met a great man. His name was Tim Bird. Tim Bird, first of all, I hacked my way into getting to work with the man. I stayed with him for about 6 to 8 months, and I just grinded within his agency at Agency Y. Great people. Everybody crushed it there. The hours you put in, I put in more hours there than I don't think in my entire life, other than playing soccer, to be completely honest with you. And all it was on the back of was challenging myself and making sure that what I was able to do visually wasn't a one-hit wonder. Right? That's the biggest thing that I needed to prove to myself, that I can do this again, not just for myself, but for other people with their dollars, with their relationships. And that might have been the most, well, it is today the smartest decision I've ever made. And what I mean by this is I was able to get my hands on 13 different brands at a time, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on multiple campaigns, launching products from zero, scaling brands that have been around for years. And it taught me the basics, yet uncomfortable feelings that you need to have when doing tests. Okay, I'm gonna double down on that. When you launch your first campaigns, it's uneasy. Things don't make sense. There's no reason why things happen. These are all questions that you're sitting here as you're diving through your data and going, wait, why does that make sense? How did I get to this result? What Tim was able to do and teach me is create the framework of decision making, right? Create the framework so that you can go back and analyze why it worked. And that has been the biggest takeaway of, as we're launching multiple brands, as I'm assisting other brands that are launching, it's really clear that developing that initial process of launch to iterate to postmortem review has been the number one benefit in growing myself as a digital marketer and the brands I've been able to touch. But what I knew there was more to it was Facebook alone, as you know this, isn't going to get your brand to where it needs to be for a long-lasting brand and B career for you and anybody around you. If you feel as though if you put money into one platform, that platform is going to feed and fund your entire business, there's no chance. Your chance of success isn't going to happen. So what I had to do is where I am at today, which I jumped with Common Thread Collective, a group of people that are focusing on helping other entrepreneurs build their goals, build their dreams. And we work from anywhere from $1 million a month to about $25 million a month in revenue for our specific stores. And what I'm talking about is we get brands off Kickstarter that have nothing. They don't really fully understand what their next steps are. But we also have big brands that are doing millions of dollars a year at retail, but just now looking to dive into it. We're able to kind of speak to both brands because at its core, you have a small team. Whether that's a small marketing team or that's a small team in general, and we're working hand in hand with entrepreneurs. The reason why it's so important for us to realize that we work with individuals that are trying to have a dream come true. Everybody has buy-in. Everybody has a sense of ownership over this, because if it isn't for them, we can't do our job. And if it isn't for us, they can't have that dream. So to me, it's been one of the most valuable ways of learning about which industry is the most exciting to me, what are the best ways of finding success. Because when I sit here and I have 25 brands that I'm able to look across at any time, do you know how many trends we're able to sense? Do you know how many decisions we're able to make when we have this much AOV to deal with, or this type of segmented audience that's working for this specific brand? We can relay it to all the other brands and win. There's no way we're not going to win when we have so much access. Whereas when you're an individual focused on just your brand, think about this. You have your product, trying to develop your brand, and you know you're speaking to a specific set of individuals, right? Now when you have an individual like myself and other people on my team where we have access to 25, 30, 40 brands doing different activations, whether it's from email, whether it's from AdWords, whether it's from Facebook or influencers, we just have sheer amounts of data. We have so much coming in that it's really hard for us not to win. And so what I'm pumped about is now I can kind of go into that and share all this entire ongoing course that we're about to get into. But if I were to go back and kind of show you, you can see, like, look at how big this forehead is. Oh, man. But again, I am just a normal dude. So my background, I was a professional soccer player, but I went to school. I'm 27 years old from Orange County, California, and I've put in a lot of work, right? So the work that we've been able to put in on the athleticism side was short-lived, but the work put into it was all worth it. It's really similar to building a brand, honestly. You put all that work in up front, and as soon as it happens, everyone thinks it's an overnight success. How did you do it? It's always easier than you really think. As soon as I finished playing professional soccer, I knew there was no way that's where my life was going to end up. Right? I wanted, after you play, you usually go coach. Not for me. I wanted to dive deeper, and you can see all the way on the right where I was able to meet with the man himself. It gave me a lot of input, Gary Vee. The man practices what he preaches, right? Obviously, he's at another level. He has a lot of people executing on behalf of him, but the man's still very, very plugged in. And to be at that level talking to those type of brands, it's impressive to see the sheer ability of being able to relate to a 27, a 25, a 22, a 19, 18-year-old. And to me, that's impacted the trajectory of my career indefinitely. But again, it's not. I don't just spend my time talking to brands. I'm out here helping other individuals kind of share their story and build up what they have for not just for themselves, but for them and their family. And again, anybody in this space, if you don't have screenshots to show what you've been able to do, you're not legit. So I had to include my screenshots. I had to include even more screenshots of all the ad accounts we use. But I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I hope by the end of this you're going to understand, okay, a lot of the things that Nick's talking about definitely shows that A, he's got deep, deep knowledge in this, and B, he's able to convey it in a way that it's understandable for me.